When these goals and when these things that we want to achieve are so grand and big and actually require a lot of smaller actions to get there, we put them off. We leave them in some idea of the future because it's too daunting to think about all of those things that come prerequisite to achieving that goal. We wait until we have that motivation, until we feel like it. Oh my gosh, going to the gym, it's so hard. So I'm going to wait until I feel like it and I have the motivation that will make it easier. It doesn't last. Hey guys, I'm back. I am back here in our kitchen, ready to chat. I also just want to apologize. I don't know why I think it's a great idea to film 30 minutes before sunset, because now the sun is going down, so I apologize. It's probably going to be a situation like last time where we're turning on lights, but we're here and we have a candle. It's a nice cozy evening. I wanted to talk to you guys about motivation and how I motivate myself when I don't feel like it, and how waiting on that feeling just perpetuates a state of feeling unmotivated and keeps what we want further and further away from us. I wanted to sit and chat and talk about how we can do the things that we want and bring the things that we want into our lives even when we don't feel like it, because most of the time we don't really feel like taking hard actions. For a long time, the reason that I felt so far away from the things that I wanted or becoming the person that I wanted to be was because I didn't know how to fill in where I was now versus where I wanted to be, or what I was doing now versus what I wanted to be doing, or the habit that I wanted to build. I didn't know what came in between. I didn't know how to approach the action in a way that didn't feel intimidating and daunting and too much, because so much of the time we wait for that right feeling. We wait for inspiration to strike. We wait till we feel energetic enough to go to the gym. We're always waiting for that feeling, and that's just not sustainable. Of course, it's fun to take those actions whenever we have that energy and that motivation, but we don't know when that's going to come. We don't always know when we're going to feel the most motivated and most energetic and most excited. It's just not sustainable to rely on that. When you want to build habits and you want to be making actionable change in your life, it's something that you want to do more consistently if you're going to see a result. Waiting on spurts of motivation is just not consistent. I personally have been struggling really hard with waking up early. That is just one habit that I know would change my life and change my stress levels, because I always feel like I don't have enough time for anything. But I am just not naturally a morning person, and I hate waking up early, and I've kind of had to try and shift that narrative a little bit and figure out like, okay, well, what do I do to actually build that habit of regularly waking up at an early time? Like, how is that even possible for somebody like me who hates waking up early? So I just hope you know that, like, when I'm giving this advice, I am no expert. I am literally probably more lost than you, but I've studied and analyzed just what works for me. I've built other habits this way, and I know that I can master waking up early too. And these things are sort of something that I need to work through and remind myself of. So I hope that we can kind of go on this journey together. Of course, we are making another floral arrangement, but I'm gonna warn you, I did not go all out for this one. I wasn't like picking all types of textures and colors. So this one is gonna be a little bit more of a humble bouquet because the bank account is a little humble right now. We're gonna work with what we got. I still think it's gonna be beautiful because the things that I did select, I was very happy with. So just know it's going to be a little simpler, not as extravagant, but we can have a simple moment too. The first thing that I want to get into is the gap. Not the store, but the gap that is in between you now and where you want to be, what habit you want to build, whatever you're doing now versus what you want to be doing. These are my notes. That's why I'm holding this. So the gap between whatever habit we wish we had in our life, or the thing that we wish we were already doing, versus whatever we're doing now and what we're reinforcing now and what we're telling ourselves now, there is a gap, right? Or else we wouldn't be desiring something different. There is a gap between ourselves now and what we want to build, the habit that we want to build and what we want to create. So much of the time we keep that gap open and that that separation alive between ourselves and the thing that we're wanting, or between what we're doing now and what we wish we were doing, we keep that gap alive through separating ourselves from it, from telling ourselves that we don't have this thing is so difficult, like there's too much work in between me now and this thing at the end. Know that that gap exists and there is some work to close it. There are things that we have to be consistently doing and building and working on in order to close that gap, which is what feels intimidating. So just be a bit easy on yourself and know that you're not necessarily lazy. You're not a failure. You're just aware of that resistance. When something feels daunting and too hard and like we can't do it, that is that gap. And the resistance is there for a reason. There's stuff in your way. So don't be too hard on yourself. It's okay. Becoming aware of that gap and aware that there is resistance there for a certain reason is what kind of sets us on the track to move past the stories that we're so lazy, we can't do it, we're not strong enough, we're not smart enough, we're not good enough. Like, we can move past all those stories once we realize, oh wait, no, there is a gap here because there is work that needs to be done and I'm feeling resistance towards it because that's hard and it's unnatural to force myself out of my comfort zone and do what I know I need to do. Even if we know what it is that we want, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to want to do the things that are going to bring us there. Like, oh, that $1 million sounds really nice. I love thinking about that. I love thinking about my toned muscles. You love thinking about the result. The result is glamorous and fun to think about. And the gap in between you now and that result is not. It's fun to think about that sexy body, but is it fun to think about you so out of breath lifting the heavy machinery and weights? Or you're thinking about that $1 million, but what about all the logistics of starting your own business? Like, it feels like too much. That gap is there for a reason because there's so many little things in between that need to be done. We can fantasize about the result all day, think about the result, and that actually is an important part, knowing the result. We talked about that in our confidence video, where having the vision, knowing the result is so important and such a vital part of this, and we'll get into a little bit of that later. But I think that we tend to sort of fixate on the, oh, I want to do this and I'll do that when I feel like it, and one day I'm going to do this thing. We like to think about the result, but not the actual act of getting there and what it means for our everyday life and what has to change and what we have to sacrifice or give up or build within ourselves to get there. The reason why all of this feels so uncomfortable is because our bodies and our minds and all of the systems within us, our nervous system, everything is trying to protect us. It's trying to keep us regulated, keep us calm, safe. And when we're introducing something like ripping ourselves out of our comfort zone to wake up at 6 a.m., like when we're doing things that we don't usually do and we're starting to move into change, our body, our minds, our system is not going to like that. We're going to reject that over and over again because it's hard. If our body senses uneasiness, alarm systems are going to go off in our head telling us, no, don't do that, reject it, resist it. That's too hard. It doesn't feel good. That's usually when we stop, and we don't want to go any further because why would we inflict pain on ourselves? Or not pain, but like, why would we inflict discomfort when we could just stay in bed, or when we could go hang out with our friends instead of going to the gym, or when we could just go get a cheeseburger down the street instead of cutting up vegetables and making some healthy meal? You have to be easy on yourself and realize that this discomfort is going to repel you from making any change in your life. Closing the gap hurts because we're asserting that discipline onto ourselves, and who wants to do that? Who wants to keep themselves accountable whenever you're the one who's inflicting the pain and receiving it at the same time? It's sort of a weird, unnatural dynamic to want to go out of your way to do something that doesn't feel good for a result that's later that we can't really see right now. I think a lot of people think of it as like delusion whenever you're wanting a change to happen in your life and you're believing in something that doesn't physically sit right in front of you. It's like you're having to trust the process And sometimes we just want to see the evidence in front of us. We don't want to go through that long-term gratification when we could just get short-term gratification instead. Why would we put ourselves through the long thing? So that brings me to my next part, becoming a match. We want to become a match to the things that we desire. The gap exists because we are not a match to the thing that we want yet. And people discredit visualization and affirmations and just like the whole idea of manifestation and all that type of stuff because they don't like that there's not that physical validation right in front of their face whenever they're visualizing or telling themselves things, right? Like so many people give up on that process because they're not seeing the physical affirmation of it in front of them right then and there. If somebody really wants a Tesla, sitting there and visualizing it and visualizing the Tesla and how it feels and telling yourself whatever you need to do in order to get that Tesla, like the job, like reaffirming things to yourself, getting in the headspace. People like to discredit that whole process because they're like, where's the Tesla? It's not here in front of me when I'm doing these visualizations. So people are very quick to discredit. No. Whoa. People are very fast to discredit those ways of thinking because they don't see the physical validation in front of them. But you really got to change your thinking with that one because it changed my life whenever I switched that. When I switched it to, I'm not going to expect the physical thing in front of me. I have to generate feeling worthy enough of it first, and then it will come. I need to become a match to the thing that I want first, and then the physical aspects will come along. Becoming a vibrational match. I know that language sometimes throws people off, like being in the vibration, but actually think about it. Think about like, if I want something, I have to generate the vibration of whatever that is in order to close the gap and to get that thing in my life. I see it very visually, right? Like I'm here, maybe if I'm feeling a lack of something or I want something in my life or I want to build a habit or change something, I'm here at point A, this is the gap, and then point B is where I have the thing in my life. Having the thing in my life, there's a certain attitude, there's a certain vibration, there's a certain way of living, thinking, and being when I have this thing. If I'm waking up early every day and I have all that time in the world, there's always going to be a frequency that's going here with whatever thing that you want. Me waking up early, that is a whole different attitude. That is a version of me that is thinking differently, that is acting differently, that is on a different plane. She's on a different vibration, right? And I'm somewhere down here. I'm not becoming a match to the lifestyle, to the habit, to the thing that I want. If I want to be at a place where I can achieve that thing or I can build that habit or be this person, I have to get on that level. And in order to get on that level and become a vibrational match to the thing that I'm trying to achieve, I have to visualize it. What do you think? I'm just going to get there from wishing that I had it in my life? No, I have to sit there. I have to visualize. I have to get myself in the headspace and become a match to whatever I'm wanting. I want to wake up at 6 a.m. Okay, then how do I need to be thinking for that? How do I need to be feeling to get in that headspace? How can I match myself to that reality? And that aligns us in the right place to close that gap. So when it actually comes to closing the gap, I like to think about it a little bit more practically because I usually tend to be very drastic because I'll just like sit there and start to tell myself and other people, I'm going to train to be in a triathlon. I'm going to do this and I'm going to become an expert at this. I come up with these big goals, which like it's not bad to have big goals and big ideas. Like I never want you to box yourself into trying to be realistic. That's not really the problem. It's more so when these goals and when these things that we want to achieve are so grand and big and actually require a lot of smaller actions to get there, we put them off. We leave them in some idea of the future because it's too daunting to think about all of those things that come prerequisite to achieving that goal. And because it's so heavy, we wait for, okay, sorry that this light keeps going off. Maisie keeps activating this light on this counter. Because it's such a big, heavy goal, we wait until we have that motivation, until we feel like it. Oh my gosh, going to the gym, it's so hard. So I'm going to wait until I feel like it and I have the motivation that will make it easier. It doesn't last. And we think because these things are so grand and big and crazy, we have to wait for the motivation to do them, to take us there. And that's just, it's never going to work like that. All of the small little actions are what make up the gap. And that's what we need to spend our time doing. All those tiny little actions that don't feel so great are what is going to bring us to that big, exciting goal. So let's try something here. This is going to be an exercise to eliminate any sort of external resistance. What are you doing? This is going to be an exercise that is going to eliminate any type of external resistance that we might have. And I just came up with this a little while ago, so bear with me. But I think the first thing that we should do is pick a habit. Pick a habit that we want, right? I can't tell you what habit to choose. You know that thing that you've been wanting to do, but you just can't really seem to do it. Something that you know would make you a better, happier, healthier version of yourself. That thing you keep putting off. Whatever that habit is for you, I know that you know it. Pick one habit. I get in this headspace where I'm like, the triathlon, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. And I come up with all these different things that I want to be doing and all these habits that I could be building. And we can get into that. There's something called habit stacking that really changed my life. We'll talk about that at another time. But let's just for now pick one habit. Let's keep it simple, show ourselves that we can do this, right? So one habit, for me, it's going to be waking up at 6 a.m. I want you guys to write this out. You can do it in your notes app. You can write it on a piece of paper. Whatever your habit is, what is one small thing that you know you need to do in order to get there? So for me, one small habit that can help me on this journey is going to bed 30 minutes earlier and waking up 30 minutes earlier. So I know that if I started just going to bed 30 minutes earlier every night, I would eventually start getting into that routine of going to bed earlier. Therefore, I would wake up earlier. I forgot what we did last time with the lighting. I think we did this, right? Yeah. No. What did we do last time? Okay, whatever. So what's a small thing that you know is going to get you into that habit? For me, it's waking up 30 minutes earlier. Maybe if you want to be working out more, you say, okay, I'm going to go to the gym twice a week, once a week, whatever it is. That small action that you know if you just implemented every day, it would get you closer to that 6 a.m. goal, right? So if I go to bed a little bit, 30 minutes earlier, increment at a time, I will get into that headspace. If you go to the gym once a week, even if it's for like 10, 20 minutes, you will eventually start getting into that practice of going weekly. So then maybe you can up it to twice a week. What's that small baseline habit that you can build? So once we have that, we're going to think about, why am I not already doing that thing? What is the resistance there? So for me, I'm not going to bed 30 minutes earlier because I'm just not really thinking about that. And I also tend to eat dinner really late. So that starts to make me think, okay, if I'm going to start going to bed 30 minutes earlier, then I need to start eating 30 minutes earlier. Actually, maybe I should be eating at 6 p.m. so that my food is digested by 10 so that I can actually start feeling tired by that time. It starts to open up a channel of, okay, why am I not already doing this thing? What makes me feel like not doing this thing? Because it's, for me, it's like the dinner thing. I know that I have to eat earlier, so I don't really feel like getting into all that and getting home at 5 p.m. to make my dinner. That's a whole resistance in itself, right? So let's follow the path of resistance. People say follow the path of least resistance, but right now we're going to follow the path of resistance. What is happening here that is making you so uncomfortable with that small action, that small little thing you could be doing to help implement this habit in your life? Why are you not already doing that? Where is the resistance coming from? So for me, it's the dinner thing. Maybe underneath the dinner thing, it's like, I actually don't even make a grocery list. So I don't even know what I want to be making early at night. I kind of just eat whatever, or what I don't have a structured meal thing. So that just sort of brings me other things to think about and how to make things easier for myself. I know that's a bit of like a brainstorming activity, but I just sort of want you to see that it's not you being lazy. It's you having a huge string of resistance that's keeping you from doing that action. Identifying those things, showing you the resistance. It's showing you the things that maybe you want to work on first before you get to that big goal. Like for me, I know I really need to master this dinner thing and also think about going to bed 30 minutes earlier. And if I can really focus on those smaller steps and clear out some of that resistance, it feels more possible to do that smaller step that is helping me build my habit. Yeah, see where the resistance is and what can you do to make those smaller steps even easier for yourself. We want everything to be as easy as possible because, of course, like consistency and sticking to it are the harder parts. Eliminating any additional resistance is the first step because we don't want this to feel like a war every time we think about reintroducing a new habit. The human mind is not meant to be working off of willpower all the time. Like, we want to feel relief and joy and pleasure and happiness and fun. If we can try to make things a bit simpler and easier for ourselves and less daunting and scary, that's like half the battle. So I would say, let's write some things out. Think of the smallest actions you can do. And hey, maybe you're somebody who like you don't even need to think about the smallest thing. You just think, hey, I want to do this, and then you actually do it. I know some people like that. I'm talking to the people who are like me, who have no motivation and have to like really work on their stamina here. So if you're one of those people and it comes a lot easier to you, then I don't know why you're watching this video. But if you're like me and you like to be a little practical in that sense and plan things out, the part that we just did, writing it out, like that's still kind of fun because we're thinking about our end goal. When I think about waking up early, I'm like, wow, how much time I'll have. That's so great. Waking up early is such a good idea. And then planning it out like, ooh, okay, I need to go to bed 30 minutes earlier and I need to do this and need to do that. It's all kind of like a fun hypothetical until we get to the sticking to it part. This is the part where I think we all put our hands up and say, never mind, because this is where I give up. Because we get scared. Change is change because it's a difference from where you are now to whatever you want. It's difficult because we are willingly removing ourselves from our comfort zone. We are going from point A to point B. We are bridging the gap and we are making the change. Change is not like, I hate change. I don't like it. Scary, the unknown, like I don't want anything to do with that. So like having to bridge that gap and willingly throw ourselves into the discomfort of all of that, it's just like, oh my God, I don't want to do it, guys. Like I actually don't want to start waking up early, but if you commit to doing this with me and like building a new habit, then I have to do it too. Like after posting this video, I am going to stay on my word here, and I hope that you guys hold me accountable and just check in sometimes because we're actually doing this together. So yeah, change is difficult because we're doing something that is outside of what is normal to ourselves and our brain. Our brain is composed of all of these pathways, all the things that we're constantly perceiving and telling ourselves, and this thing is so hard and we're afraid and our body's trying to keep us safe. Having to rewrite all of that and rework those systems and start reinforcing other things, it's just uncomfortable. And it's a lot. I have a whole personality out of enjoying comfort. I love comfortable bedding. I love coziness, and waking up at 6 a.m. does not coincide with that. It's dark outside and you're telling me to remove myself from my comfortable blanket and stand in the cold hallway brushing my teeth in the bathroom. Like that just goes against everything that I want right away in the morning. I know that we're all working on different habits here, but like the one that I am talking about specifically requires me to actually be crazy and go against what I really desire and just like want to do. So just be prepared for the alarm systems to go off when you would much rather be sitting in a nice comfortable chair than lifting weights at the gym. Those alarm systems are going off when you decide, okay, I'm actually not gonna go through the McDonald's drive-thru tonight and I'm going to make myself a home-cooked meal. Nope, the alarms are going. No. Think about the cheeseburger, be so good. Oh my gosh, think about just sitting down. It's so much more comfortable. And I think about sleeping in for 2 more hours. How much better we'll feel if we get sleep. That's what I always tell myself. I'm like, you'd feel so much better though if you just slept in. And I never actually stick to it. So those alarm systems, those excuses, the noise, the fear to try and keep us away from it, be prepared for that. Know that it's coming. Expect it a little bit, right? Because that is what scares us off. off and keeps us from actually going through. So that now brings me to the accountability side of all of this. You are the one holding yourself to all of this. You are the one who wants this change to be made in your life, who wants this new habit, who thinks, wow, I would be such a better version of myself if I did this thing or if I had this. So you're choosing it all, and you're also doing all the work. You are holding yourself accountable. And because you are holding yourself accountable, you know the discomfort that you're in. You know how it feels. So it's easier to give in, and you'll look for excuses everywhere. I am an expert with excuses. I love excuses. Like I said, oh, you'll feel so much better if you just stay in bed. Oh, you know what, this person... Guys, oh my God, I'm not kidding. Every time I film these videos, I see such like a magical thing happen outside this window. I saw a butterfly last time, and now I just saw the first firefly that I've seen this year. That is so magical. Wow, I wish you guys could have seen it too. Yeah, so you're gonna find excuses. You're literally going to beg excuses to come to you. You're like, if it's not, oh, you feel so much better sleeping in, it's gonna be, oh, well, you know, this friend can only have dinner this night, so I'm actually not going to go to the gym after work because I have to see them. Or I would love to make my own dinner tonight, but like I just don't really have the time for that, and you know, my spinach is kind of like wilting, so maybe I don't want to do that. Like, you're going to find excuses all around. They exist everywhere to pick from. I did a therapy session recently where we just like really went in on this, but I also think that Leo Skepi said something similar one time where he was talking about how you kind of have to like take care of the child in you. And I'm saying something similar in the sense of there is always going to be that part of us that is our inner child, and it's going to come up in different ways. The part of us that maybe doesn't want to go through the discomfort of going to the gym, or doesn't want to wake up early, or doesn't want to go on the walk, or doesn't want to do the habit, or doesn't want the discomfort. There's always going to be that. And when there is that whining part of us that we just label as lazy and, oh, I just wish that I could do it and I didn't feel this way. Like that whining little part that is nagging you, is making it difficult and doesn't want to do this thing. We have to change our attitude around that part. We can't shoo it off and tell it it's lazy and this and that. We have to nurture those feelings too and acknowledge them. And I think what's really helped me is viewing myself, and this is what I think that Leo Skepi talked about, is viewing myself as a parental figure to this little part of me that's like, I don't want to do it and I can't do it. I've become this like parental figure that, you know, hears me out. Maybe I give it a little ice cream, or I give it a little reward system or something. Like, I understand its feelings and I give it that sympathy and I nurture it and I understand it. But I, as the parent, have more understanding than this child does. And I have the logic and I have the knowing that if I do this for this amount of days, or I stick to this habit, or I am consistent, I will achieve this result and I will have this thing. And I care more about this thing than I care about being comfortable or staying safe in this way that doesn't really exist. Like, I love that child and I nurture that part of me that doesn't want to do this, but I also have the wisdom and the knowing that I can take that little child and take her on the journey with me, show her, hey, it's not that bad. Being gentle with yourself, becoming that figure of guidance for yourself. Like, you know the goal, you know the vision, you know what it takes to get there. You'll do the action, but you're taking her with you. You're acknowledging how it does not feel so good, but that's okay, and we can still do it even whenever it doesn't feel so great. I really needed to hear that, honestly. The accountability, it is all up to us, and that is the horrible but beautiful part of all of this. So now let's talk about negative and positive connotations. If we have a negative connotation with something, we are not going to look forward to it. If anything, we're going to fear it and reject it, like we've talked about. If we have a positive connotation, we're going to look forward to it. We're going to want more of it. We're going to be excited for it. I think so much of the time, because this gap exists and because there's so much small action that doesn't always feel so great to take, we look at the work that needs to be done between ourselves and our goal, and we're like, I actually really hate that because it makes me feel really bad and it's really hard. Like even how I've been speaking, my language during this video, me talking about my goal, I keep saying, I'm not a morning person. It's so difficult, right? Like I have that narrative and that negative connotation with waking up early. If I have that negative connotation, it's going to just make me dread it more and more and more. And it makes the journey that much harder. When our body and our mind is expecting something to be negative and unenjoyable, we're going to resist it even more. How can we shift that negative connotation to a positive one? When I was thinking about that, I realized that the easiest answer is gratitude, because gratitude is something that we all have access to. I know we've heard it a million times. Oh, gratitude, it's such a high vibration. We have to be grateful. I didn't really fully grasp that until recently. I've always known that it's important to be grateful, but I didn't realize how much actually changes in your brain whenever you do start to resort to gratitude, because it's like anything else. If we're focusing on what we're grateful for, then we just start to see more and more of it around us. And the opposite is also true, of course. If we can focus on what we're grateful for, we can, even if it feels crazy at first, we can bring ourselves to a more positive, happy headspace around that thing that we're doing or that action we're taking to build this habit. When I wake up and that alarm goes off before the sun has risen and I am laying there in bed and I don't feel good because I'm tired and it's just so nasty, I don't feel ready to start the day. When all of that is going down, and guys, this is hard, but I have the power to be like, I am actually so grateful that I just woke up to start another day. Maybe I don't actually feel like that. Recently, I felt the opposite, where I'm waking up being like, oh my God, what do I have to do today? I'm dreading the day. But switching that and actually saying, I'm so grateful for the sunrise I'm about to see. How amazing that I get to see that. I am so grateful that I'm breathing right now. I get to live another full day. I'm so grateful for this comfy bed that I just slept in. I'm so grateful that I get to sleep in it again tonight. I'm so grateful that I have... See, I'm running low here on the gratitude list because I'm not always used to doing this. But like, there is always something we can find, even if it's so small. It's like a game. Start playing that game with yourself instead of immediately resorting to the, oh my God, I hate this. I can't do this last set. I don't want to cook this meal. I don't want to wake up early. It's so hard. Try in those moments where you feel the pain the most and you feel that uneasiness, you feel yourself having to kind of force the action and the habit. Try to bring in the gratitude. Try to look for anything you possibly can to feel grateful for. And I promise the more that you do that, the more positivity grows around that thing. There's a positive connotation with it eventually, because when we start to see what there is to be grateful for in the midst of something that feels really difficult, it's going to make it a little easier. It's going to make it feel better. It's going to make us feel good while we're on this journey. That is a crazy person laying in bed right before the sun rises being like, I'm so grateful for the, like, that is literally, that sounds so unnatural to me, but I know that's what it takes in order for me to start thinking positively about it and for me to actually start changing that brain chemistry so that I can be excited and that I can look forward to this thing eventually. It's not going to happen overnight, but eventually it will happen if we're always just working towards that gratitude. And we're working towards that gratitude as we're taking the action, right? But the more action we take, the more results we start to see, and then those results start to become very motivating for us. And because we have that motivation, it becomes easier to do it because we're looking forward to it. So more positive connotation will come with time. When you're first starting to build it and it first is starting to feel like very uncomfortable, I think searching for gratitude is one of the easiest steps to make the journey a bit easier. But naturally, with that gratitude, the momentum will build, but also you just being consistent will build that positivity, because you'll start seeing why you're doing this thing and you're going to start getting those actual physical forms of validation for your actions. So I promise you, it's difficult at first, but it is naturally going to get easier over time if we work for it in the right ways. We don't have to be perfect, but being consistent is is very important. Even if we fail, guys, like even if we can't do it one day or we just give in to the excuses, whatever, we have to try again. And I think that's, at least for me, I sort of feel a bit of perfectionism there where I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna change a habit or do something, I have to do it right and I have to do it well and I have to show myself that I can do this and to see the results. But sometimes when I give in, I sort of just tend to go back to the track of where I was. I don't really try to go back and do it again and keep that consistency going. So consistency is so important, even if it doesn't look perfect, because if we break that consistency, we are threatening the gap to open again. All that consistency and that work and that gratitude and putting in those small actions to build this habit, it's closing the gap. And if we sort of revert back and we lose our consistency and we lose the habit of doing it every day, then we kind of just go back to where we started. I'm sure that maybe you felt this before or you've heard people talk about this. I've experienced this a little with doing yoga. I hold a lot of tension in my body, so doing yoga naturally just helps me feel healthier and more relaxed and better. And there was a time where I was doing it twice a day. I'm not right now. That's a habit that I need to rebuild again. See, I created the gap again. I was doing it consistently and it felt amazing. And I kind of was, I don't want to use the word addicted. I was really into the habit because once we start doing something for a good amount of time, our body and our mind wants it. And we build those positive connotations. Are you kidding me? Like we are going to want that thing more than the comfort of staying in bed or this or that. The second that we give in to breaking that consistency, it just leads to us not wanting to go down that path again. We want to refrain from opening the gap again. And all these little actions are going to help us close it. One of the last things that I wanted to talk about was taking the risk of doing something for yourself, by yourself, holding yourself accountable. That is a risk. I think our body and mind interprets it as a risk as well. Because like, think about if you're doing a trust fall with somebody, right? Like you are trusting them to catch you. They could move and your skull could crack on the ground. You are taking a risk, but you're trusting that person to catch you. It's kind of like we're doing that with ourselves. And even what we were talking about earlier with the inner child and the more authoritative figure, it's like we are trusting that authoritative part of ourselves to carry us through this discomfort. We're trusting that discomfort and finding the gratitude at 6 a.m. and all these things are really worth it because that authoritative figure, that part of us that knows that the end result is coming, we're trusting that it is, and we're trusting that we're doing that. We have to have a level of trust whenever we're doing these things. Maybe you take that to a spiritual level. Maybe you're trusting that part of you who's encouraging these actions and this habit building. Whatever you need to put your trust in, that is a valuable part. Because if we don't trust that these things are going to work, or if we don't trust that we're going to start seeing outcomes eventually and that this long-term gratification is going to come to fruition eventually, then we're not going to want to do it. We have to trust that the thing that we want is on the other end of this. Even though it doesn't feel like, okay, we're going to, get our $1 million if we just do this tiny daily action. Those tiny daily actions are what is going to eventually get us to that goal. And we push away all these little actions because they're uncomfortable, but like those tiny steps are what is carrying us there. We're taking a risk because we don't know, like what we were talking about earlier with visualizing and just wanting the Tesla in front of you. We don't know. When you're starting out, it's uncomfortable because you don't know that the Tesla is going to show up in front of you eventually, but it will if you keep reinforcing the belief that it is going to come through these actions, that you are on that track, that it is already yours if you can follow the path, if you can become a vibrational match, if you can get in alignment and take the action necessary. If we're anticipating so much discomfort, like in our trust fall, we're anticipating a risk, we're anticipating discomfort. It is a risk to move forward anyways, but that is where the trust in ourselves. I know that I'm going to see these results eventually. I am doing it for this purpose. Let me find what I can be grateful for along the way, because these are the hardest parts to that amazing habit and being that person who can just do this thing and who can wake up early, who goes to the gym. Like, these are the building blocks to that. So if you can just have a little bit of consistency and give yourself some grace and focus on these tiny little steps and these small actions that you can take every single day, just wait. you're going to be fast tracking on your journey. It's difficult at first. I know it is. I say that you're never going to feel like it because those feelings of motivation and inspiration are very short-lived most of the time. And if we want to bring a new habit into our life and our experience, and we want to get better at something and grow, it is sort of a matter of doing it even when we don't want to. And that's almost when it matters the most, because we're making the most change and we are bridging that gap. I think that's it. Those are really all of my notes, but I think that we're all capable of so much more than we think we are. But the uneasiness of taking yourself out of your comfort zone, that's the limitation that holds us back. We don't want to do the things that are uncomfortable. I've talked about that before. There's so many things that we are waiting on and that we're waiting to be strong enough to do, and that we're waiting to have the inspiration for. And it's just, we're wasting so much precious energy and time and life that we have now to become the person that we desire to be, because we are that person. If you're watching this video right now and you want to build new habits and you're interested in motivating yourself, you're already on the right track. You know that you're capable of more and that you want to do better, and you see that vision for yourself. Therefore, it does exist. It's all just about becoming a match to that and taking the action necessary, which I know we are all capable of, no matter how hard it seems. And I just hope that my words and you seeing me try and reinforce these beliefs made it a bit simpler, or made it seem less daunting and scary, because it is scary. And I promise that we are on this journey together and we can do it.